Hi everyone, Sid Walker here. Today we are going to talk about why you have call reluctance. I've been a peak performance sales coach for over 40 years with over 5,000 clients. Um, my main focus at this point in my career is helping people overcome their call reluctance. And I have a free school called Fearless Prospecting Group. Skool, of course, is Skool. And this is a formerly $1,000 5.5 hour internet course that I put together about 2 years ago, and which is now free. So this is my latest and greatest material, and the fastest way to get to that website, which is also below, is fearlessprospecting.net. So go there to the free school, click on join, couple steps. It's really simple. And then on step 2, you can get some free stuff there. You can download the first 30 pages of my Amazon bestseller called How I Conquered Call Reluctance. The title's longer, but that's basically. If you want to see all my books, type in Sydney Walker is better than Sid Walker. Sydney, Sidney. I've got 7 books on Amazon. And then also, I have my reference website. I have 7 websites. Is sidwalker.com, sidwalker.com. That's got a good reference. It promotes call reluctance, but it's got all my other sites on there. All right. Many people experience call reluctance, way more than you think. This is sometimes called the fear of self-promotion, which is more inclusive. Most of the time when people refer to call reluctance, it's related to a fear of rejection in some form. There are many different kinds of fears and forms of rejection. We're not going to get into all that today, but we're going to deal with this more, deal with the fear related to call reluctance from a more general perspective for today. The main reason you have call reluctance in the form of fear of rejection is totally logical, the way the brain works. Many people think there's something wrong with them because they can't seem to get over their call reluctance no matter what they try. This can be frustrating, debilitating, and take a lot of energy to deal with the fallout, which is lack of income usually. That's the biggest problem. Most people just assume there's something wrong with them and no one seems to know how to fix the problem. There are not many people who actually understand the actual source of call reluctance. Many people have an opinion on the subject, but those are usually not very helpful. So I'm one of the people who understands the cause of call reluctance. I've had as much call reluctance as any 10 people put together in my life, and I've been working on overcoming that problem for decades. And I've had great success both on breaking through myself and helping thousands of other people. All right. So call reluctance is far more complicated than most people understand. People often tell me, I don't need a coach. I know what to do. I just can't do it. Well, that's exactly why you need a coach, actually. The fact that you can't do what you really want to do is a serious problem. And I understand that it doesn't feel like there's anything majorly wrong with you. You feel normal. You function well in society. You've got good people skills. You've been able to do many other things successfully in life. And you may actually be fearless in other parts of your life. Why is making prospecting calls such a problem? Why can't you figure this out? I hear it all the time. So let's get into it. The main culprit is the ego. I've talked a lot about that in a lot of different ways, and I don't think it's such a big thing, and it's such a major part of our lives. We have to keep addressing that. Most people think the ego is a sense of self-esteem or self-worth. That is actually true, and also a positive part of the ego. The problem is the rest of the ego is negative. It's actually the source of all negativity and all suffering. How's that for a nasty piece of work? My Catholic clients call the ego the devil, right? So that puts things in perspective fairly quickly. All right. Most people don't know that the ego is the source of negativity. It reminds me of the line, the greatest trick the devil ever played was to convince everybody that he didn't exist. And this is a major problem. Most people don't have any idea or any concept of the amount of negativity in their brain, which is enough to keep you from doing anything you want to do, especially if there's a risk involved of any kind. The ego, it's like a piece of software in your head that thinks its job is to keep you safe and help you survive on a dangerous planet where you've been left alone. Of course, none of that's true, but that's the common perception created by the ego part of the brain, and that's what most people believe. This has been going on for thousands of years, folks. There's nothing new about any of this. But anyway, we could talk about, well, to me, what's new is how much the ego has taken over the planet. Okay, that's a problem. So the ego creates the illusion of protecting us by making it difficult to get outside of our comfort zone in order to take any risks. The ego hates risk, it hates rejection, it hates the unknown because those are potential threats to our survival. The ego thinks its job is to eradicate all threats to survival. Okay. So the problem is the ego is not very discerning. To the ego, being chased by a lion in the jungle that wants you for dinner 1,000 years ago is the same risk as picking up the phone to make a prospecting call. Okay, which of course is insane. Okay, there's actually there's no risk to making a prospecting call. Okay, certainly not similar to being chased by a lion that wants you for dinner. The other problem is that we've made the ego the most powerful part of our brain. That's a huge problem. And another interesting thing is the smarter you are, the more powerful your ego is. I have a high IQ, a lot of mental energy. I'm highly creative. That has its advantages, of course, but the downside is I can come up with more reasons not to prospect than or I can come up with reasons you've never thought of. Okay, I've done a lot of that. I learned that the hard way. I have to allow myself, basically, if I allow myself to have negative thoughts, I can be a train wreck in seconds. Okay, and so I can't do it. And that's a major tenet of my coaching for many years, has been ignore all negative thoughts. Total waste of time. Okay, that's another program. But anyway, I'll throw that in there just as a bonus. That's a big one. And of course, if you're an emotional train wreck, that's not a resourceful state to do anything. Okay, usually that just makes everything worse. Okay. So let's summarize, because this is big. This is big stuff. The most powerful part of your brain thinks its job is to help you survive by avoiding any risk or risks that are outside your comfort zone. That isn't going to work well in this reality. You've heard this saying, no risk, no reward. That's how this reality works most of the time. Of course, there's always exceptions, but that's a major theme. No risk, no reward. One of my favorite sayings, which was a number of people have said it, but it's originally attributed to a real estate executive in Atlanta back in the late 1800s. Everything you want in life is on the other side of fear. Everything you want in life is on the other side of fear. That's because of the ego. Okay, the ego is creating the fear. I was reading something the other day which I found fascinating. It said, move toward whatever you fear. There's a hidden breakthrough there. Okay, that's not what most people are doing. But I thought that was great. Anyway, use the fear as a direction finder. That's the way to go for the biggest breakthroughs. All right. So if you have call reluctance and you get ready to pick up the phone or prospect in any way, your ego is going to come up with logical reasons why you don't need to prospect, reasons why you would not want to prospect, or come with anything that will distract you to something else more important or more interesting. The mantra of the ego is no action means no risk. Ego hates action. It wants to think. Let's figure this out. Because if you're figuring stuff out and you're thinking, you're not doing anything. Plus, your ego wants you to get everything perfect before you ever take any risks, which again is insane. Life doesn't work that way. That's another talk. Some people say, just make the calls and your fear will go away. I never liked that one. but it's actually true. The problem is that unless you have some way to see that your fears are not real, that they're actually based on illusion, then you're going to put it off. And it takes some guts to dial the phone. But the first step is you've got to basically see that the fears, or just to consider the possibility that the fears aren't real. Okay, they feel real, but they're really not. Then of course you got to have some guts to push buttons on the phone. But and if you feel fear, doubt, worry, anxiety when you get ready to dial the phone, it's really hard to do. It's really hard to do it. Okay, so let's talk more about that, because that's just the reality. That if you've got fear's an emotion, it's a feeling, and we can honor it as that, but it doesn't mean that what it's afraid of is real. Okay, that's the tricky part. Okay, so if you can learn that whatever the negative feeling is most likely based on an illusion, that's where the window of opportunity is. Okay, you have to see that part of your brain is trying to trick you into not taking any action. And if you can learn to take the fear with you and take action anyway, that's when the breakthrough happens. When you experience your fear head on or directly, it starts to disappear. That sounds simple, and and it is, but I'm not saying it doesn't take guts to do it. This is kind of like, this is diving off the high board, okay? The 10-meter board. I worked with a fighter pilot years ago. That was fascinating. He won all kinds of accommodations. He was a genius in dogfights. Then he got out of the service, got a sales job, and couldn't pick up the phone. He could make prospecting calls. Okay, how about that one? This guy was risking his life on a regular basis. That was his job. Fighter jets go over 2,000 miles an hour. You can destroy anything in seconds. You can be shot down in seconds. He said, if you're in combat in a fighter jet, he says, just it all happens fast. He says, it's like Tom Cruise said in both Top Guns, if you think you die. That's how fast it's happening. So how is it possible that somebody could be fearless in one part of their life and still have the fear of rejection when they're picking up the phone to make prospecting calls? And just a reminder, there's actually nothing dangerous about making a prospecting call. It's not life-threatening. Okay. So if you asked this pilot if he was scared the first time he was in real combat, what do you think he'd say? Well, he'd say he was so scared he could barely stay conscious. Okay. I asked him at one point. He said, but what's the difference between being scared during your first dogfight and picking up the phone to make your first prospecting call? If you're in a fighter jet and someone starts shooting at you, you can't decide not to fight back. Well, you have to decide to either fight back or try to escape. Okay, those are your choices. Right? Yeah, you have to feel your fear and do the best you can. So you can fight another day. In other words, you have no other choice. You have to feel the fear and take action. Or you could say, take action and take the fear with you. I've always liked that one. You also got to see in the movie Top Gun that an experienced fighter pilot can get spooked by being shot down and have a hard time overcoming the fear of that experience. And you have to push yourself to feel the fear of being killed in order to be able to get back in the jet and back into the fight. Okay, I mean that's an important theme of that movie, and there's some other ones out there like that too, because it's just the way this reality works, and the reason the fighter pilot example works so well for overcoming fear is when you're in a jet flying 2,000 miles an hour and someone's trying to kill you, you can't say, well, I don't want to do this today, or let's find something else more interesting. Okay, but when you're staring at the phone deciding if you want to make prospecting calls, it's easy to say, we can do this tomorrow. Okay, so there's a lot of ways out, to not make prospecting calls, right? Whereas it's just good to look at the example where there is no way out and what you have to do. That's the fighter jet or something similar. So the bottom line is you have to find a window where you can find enough guts to dial the phone and feel your fears in the process and complete the call. And this is much harder as you get older, which is, I've been coaching a long time, decades, over 40 years. And I see this happen all the time. A lot of times I'll be talking to people and they've had a successful sales career, but they maybe haven't been on the phone in a while. They get into management or something, and they talk to me about making 100 or more calls a day. When they're in their 20s, didn't give it a thought. They just did it. And as they've gotten older, the ego comes up with all kinds of reasons not to make calls. Okay, and so that's another part of the process you need to understand is your ego doesn't like risk, and it's the more time you take off from making calls, the more it's building barriers in there to keep you from never doing it again. Okay, and also I tell people when I'm coaching them, I say make calls every day for at least a half hour, or at least one call a day, because if you push yourself to feel that risk, feel that fear, risk, whatever you're feeling, it gets less obviously the more you call, but if you feel that every day, the ego doesn't have any time really to build the barriers back in again. Whereas you take a couple weeks off, it's your ego's working hard. It's slowing things down as much as possible. And I'm sure you've all had that experience. So again, like the Top Gun example, Maverick learned to become fearless in a fighter jet until he got shot down and his co-pilot was killed. Then he had to overcome those fears all over again. And this time the fears are based on reality, not just imagined fears. He had experience of being shot down and his friend dying, or his co-pilot and friend. But the process of overcoming those fears is the same. You have to experience the fear and not let it stop you from getting back in the fight in order to break through. The good news is that there are many ways to make it easier to take your fears with you when you're prospecting. You can learn to ignore the negative thoughts coming at you 100 miles an hour. You can learn to create a place in your awareness where the negative thoughts can't touch you. I'm good at that. There's a bunch of that stuff in the course. Mental tricks. They may not, what I like to say is you can learn to create a place in your awareness where negative thoughts can't touch you. Okay, that's powerful to do. They may not totally disappear, but you can learn to not let them stop you. And actually, the better you get at this, the quieter those negative thoughts get. You swat them away like flies. And they're never going to go away totally. Your ego's always going to be there. I have clients that make over $1 million a year, some more than that. One guy told me recently, and this is not uncommon. He said, "Well, what's your biggest fear?" He said, "I'm afraid people are going to find out I don't know what I'm doing." Not likely if he's making a couple $1 million a year, but anyway, you'd be surprised at what the ego makes people think, no matter how successful you are. Okay, and I think, my Fearless Prospecting School is the most comprehensive program out there on how to break through this resistance. So jump in. Anyone can learn to do it. Anyone can learn to break through. It doesn't take any level of intelligence or experience, or it's just we all have the same basic process. It's just part of the package of life, and you can break through it. And remember, your ego will never want to make prospecting calls, never. However, your intuitive spirit wants to prospect and knows how to ignore the negative thoughts of the ego. That's why when you actually do get on the phone, you get energy. You feel energy because your intuition knows it's going to work. Okay, that's another talk. You have to learn the difference between being afraid to take action based on negative thoughts and being in the zone where nothing can stop you. Let me say that again because that's kind of summarizes everything. You have to learn the difference between being afraid to take action based on negative thoughts and being in the zone where nothing can stop you. Okay, that's the goal. Get in the zone, become unstoppable. Doesn't mean you don't have any fear. Doesn't mean you don't have some resistance. Done a lot of speaking in my career. There's always some stage fright when you walk out on the stage, and especially I spent a fortune on speaking coaches over my career. At my best, toward the end, I don't speak in front of live audiences anymore, but I would say a prayer on the way to the podium, saying, "Okay, God, give me the words for this group," and then I would wing it. That takes guts, okay? But I trust my intuition. I mean, obviously within the parameter of the subject matter, I would wing it. I'm not just making stuff up, but I just mean those were that was the most fun way to speak. Was just get out there, pick a topic, and let it rip. If I could get people asking me questions, that helps too. Anyway, again, that's another whole subject. I have a lot of clients who speak. It's a great way to find clients. So sign up for the free school. Go to fearlessprospecting.net. That link's also below. Follow the prompts. And also you can schedule a free 15-minute quick start strategy call, we call it, when you join. There'll be a link there. There's also one below. But it's not a sales call. It's just designed to kind of help you get started and make sure you got the resources you need to overcome your call reluctance. And, identify a little bit about what's holding you back. Sometimes I can give people some quick ideas on how to break through and how to make more money. So, all right. I think that's it. Thanks for joining us, and we will do this again soon. All right.